Chapter 1. The Spit. The champagne tasted like piss, but I kept drinking it anyway. That's what you do at corporate parties when you're the nobody husband of somebody important. You smile, you nod, you pretend the small talk doesn't make you want to set yourself on fire. "So, what do you do again, Van?" asked some blonde in a power suit who'd already forgotten my name twice. "I'm between things," I said, which was technically true. I was between wanting to tell her the truth and wanting to watch her face when she found out later. Lena glided past in her black dress, the one that cost more than most people's rent. She didn't look at me. Hadn't looked at me much in the past 6 months, actually. But she sure as hell was looking at Connor Riley. Connor fucking Riley. Her boss. 42 years old, built like he still played college football, and dumber than a box of hammers. Old money, new arrogance, and absolutely no idea who I really was, which made this whole thing so much sweeter. "Van," Connor's voice boomed across the hotel ballroom. "There's the man of the hour." I turned, still holding my champagne flute, and watched him swagger over. Lena followed a step behind, her expression unreadable. Around us, conversations quieted. People love a good show, especially when it's not their marriage imploding. "Connor," I said, "hell of a party." "Thanks, buddy. Though I guess you're used to being the plus one by now, huh?" He grinned, showing teeth that probably cost more than a car. Must be tough, being married to the star. "Oh, I manage." "Do you?" He stepped closer, and I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you're barely hanging on." The room went dead quiet. Even the catering staff stopped moving. Lena stood frozen, her wine glass halfway to her lips. "Is that right?" I asked. "That's right." Connor's grin widened. "See, Van, here's the thing. Lena's mine at work. 8, 10 hours a day. She answers to me. She does what I tell her to do. She goes where I tell her to go." He paused, savoring the moment. "So maybe you should wait your turn." And then he did it. The thing that sealed his fate and hers. Connor Riley, Senior Vice President of Operations, gathered saliva in his mouth and spat directly in my face. The glob of spit hit my left cheek and started sliding down toward my jaw. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The only sound was the distant clink of ice and someone's drink. I reached up slowly and wiped the spit away with my napkin. Then I looked at Lena, my wife of 7 years, the woman who'd promised to love and honor me. She stood there like a statue, watching her boss humiliate her husband in front of 50 people. "Well," I said, my voice perfectly calm, "that was refreshing." Connor laughed. "Jesus, Van, do you have any balls at all?" "You know what?" I smiled at him. "You're absolutely right. Lena is yours at work. No argument there." I took a sip of champagne and met his eyes. "Just don't forget to tell the director you're fired." His laugh faltered. "What?" "Nothing. Inside joke." I turned to Lena. "Darling, I think I'll head home. You coming?" She looked at Connor, then back at me. "Actually, I think I'll stay a while longer. Work stuff to discuss." "Of course. Work stuff." I nodded to the crowd. "Enjoy your evening, everyone." I walked out of that ballroom with spit still drying on my face and murder in my heart. But I was smiling because Connor Riley had no idea what he'd just done. None of them did. I wiped the spit off my face and smiled. Let them think I'd lost. It's always funnier that way. Chapter 2. The Papers. Lena never came home that night. I sat in our living room until 3 a.m., drinking scotch and planning. The house felt bigger somehow, like it was already adjusting to being empty. 7 years of marriage, and it all came down to this: waiting for a woman who was probably in another man's bed, thinking about how to destroy them both. My phone buzzed once around midnight. A text from my buddy Artie. "Saw the video, you okay?" Someone had filmed it. Of course they had. In 30 seconds, I'd gone from anonymous corporate spouse to viral humiliation. The comments were probably already rolling in. Pathetic. Doormat. How does he even look at himself in the mirror? If they only knew. Lena's key turned in the lock at 7:30 the next morning. I was making coffee, still in yesterday's clothes, playing the part of the defeated husband. She walked in looking like she'd spent the night at a spa instead of fucking her boss. "We need to talk," she said. "Good morning to you too, sweetheart." She set her purse on the kitchen island and pulled out a manila envelope. "I've been thinking about this for a while, Van. Last night just confirmed it." "Confirmed what?" "That we're done." She slid the envelope across the granite countertop. "Divorce papers. I had my lawyer draw them up last week." I opened the envelope and scanned the documents. Pretty standard stuff, considering we didn't have kids. She wanted the house, half my retirement, and alimony. What she didn't know was that my real retirement account wasn't listed anywhere she could find it. "Generous terms," I said. "I'm being fair." "Are you?" I looked up at her. "What about last night? Was that fair?" "Last night was Connor being Connor. You know how he gets when he's been drinking." "Ah, yes. Boys will be boys, right? Just harmless fun, spitting in your husband's face in front of half the company." She had the decency to look uncomfortable. "He went too far. I'll talk to him." "Don't bother. I'm sure he's learned his lesson." "What's that supposed to mean?" I signed the papers with a flourish and slid them back. "Nothing at all. Just that actions have consequences. Usually." The front door opened and closed again. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy ones. "Honey?" Connor's voice echoed through the house. "Where do you want me to put these boxes?" He walked into the kitchen carrying 2 cardboard boxes, stopped dead when he saw me. "Oh, Van. Didn't expect to see you here." "It's my house, Connor." "Right, well, not for much longer from what I hear." He set the boxes down and put his arm around Lena's waist. "Hope there's no hard feelings about last night. You know how it is." "I do indeed." "Good man." He squeezed Lena closer. "We were thinking of grabbing breakfast. You want to join us?" My treat. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. The man had spit in my face 12 hours ago, spent the night fucking my wife, and now he wanted to buy me Eggs Benedict. It was almost artistic in its cruelty. "That's very kind," I said, "but I have to get to work." "Work?" Lena frowned. "Van, you don't have a job." "Actually, I do. Starting today, as a matter of fact." I poured my coffee into a travel mug and headed for the door. "New position, very exciting." "Where?" Connor asked. I paused in the doorway and smiled at them. "Your building, actually. Small world, right?" She said she wanted to be his. I decided to give her everything she asked for, and then some. Chapter 3. The Reveal. The elevator in Connor's building was one of those mirrored jobs where you could see yourself from 6 different angles. I straightened my tie and watched the floors tick by. 37, 38, 39. The executive floor. I'd been in this building exactly once before, for a Christmas party 2 years ago. Lena had introduced me to a few people as my husband, the consultant, which was technically accurate but missed about 90% of the story. I'd smiled and shaken hands and let them think I was nobody special. Today was going to be different. The elevator dinged, and I stepped out into a world of glass and steel and very expensive furniture. The receptionist, a redhead with perfect teeth, looked up from her computer. "Can I help you?" "Van Keller to see Mr. Roth." "Do you have an appointment?" "He's expecting me." She made a phone call, spoke quietly for 30 seconds, then hung up with a puzzled expression. "He'll see you now." Top floor, private elevator behind the conference room. I thanked her and walked past the cubicles where Lena's colleagues were starting their day. A few of them looked up as I passed. I could see the recognition dawning. The guy from the video. The husband who got spit on and took it like a champ. The private elevator required a key card, which I had. It required a fingerprint scanner, which recognized me. And it required a 6-digit code, which I entered from memory. Samuel Roth was waiting when the doors opened. 73 years old, silver hair, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars. He'd built this company from nothing over 4 decades, and he trusted exactly 3 people in the world to help him run it. I was one of them. "Van," he said, extending his hand. "Hell of a show last night." "You saw it?" "Already sent me the video. 30,000 views and counting." He led me into his office, which occupied half the top floor and had windows overlooking the entire city. I particularly enjoyed the part where young Mr. Riley told you not to forget to tell me he was fired. I thought you'd appreciate that. Oh, I did? Though I'm curious how long you're planning to let him twist in the wind before you lower the boom. I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk. Depends how much fun I'm having. And the wife? Served me papers this morning. I'm sorry, Van. I know you loved her. Did I? I thought about it. Maybe. Once, before I realized what she really was. Roth poured 2 glasses of scotch from a crystal decanter. So, what's the plan? Give them what they want. Let them think they've won. Then show them what losing actually looks like. Sounds expensive. I'm not planning to break any laws, Sam. Just bend a few rules, creatively. He handed me the scotch and raised his glass. To creative rule bending. We drank, and then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Your new office is on the 38th floor. Corner suite, private bathroom, full executive privileges. Your official title is Director of Strategic Operations. What does that mean? Whatever you want it to mean. You report directly to me. You have access to everything, and your authority supersedes anyone below the C-suite level. Including Connor? Especially Connor, Roth smiled. He's about to have a very educational day. I took the elevator back down to 38 and found my new office. It was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows, mahogany desk, leather everything. And it was exactly 3 doors down from Lena's cubicle. Perfect. I was unpacking my briefcase when Artie knocked on the doorframe. Well, look who's come up in the world. Arthur Russo had been head of security for 6 years, ever since he'd retired from the Boston PD. He was the only person in the building who knew my real job, and he'd been feeding me information about Lena and Connor for months. Morning, Artie. How's the weather down there? Stormy. Words getting around about your new position. Lot of confused faces in the break room. I bet. What about our friends? Connor's in his office, probably nursing a hangover. Lena's been making phone calls all morning. Sounds like damage control. From last night? From you being here. She's trying to figure out what's going on. I sat back in my executive chair and looked out at the city. She's about to find out. My desk phone rang. I picked it up on the second ring. Van Keller. Van? It was Lena, and she sounded confused. What are you doing? Working. You know, that thing people do to earn money? I mean, what are you doing here? In this building? I got a job, sweetheart. Didn't I mention that? You said you were working here, but, Van, people are saying you're some kind of executive. That can't be right. Can't it? Silence. Then, what's your title? Director of Strategic Operations. More silence. That's impossible. That position doesn't exist. It does now. In fact, I'm looking at my first strategic operation right now. Which is? I pulled up Connor's personnel file on my computer. Team building exercise. Very important stuff. I think you and Connor would be perfect for it. Van, what are you talking about? Check your email in about 5 minutes. You'll understand everything. I hung up and started typing. The first email went to Connor with a CC to Lena and the entire operations team. Subject: mandatory team building assignment. Immediate action required. Connor and Lena, effective immediately, you're both assigned to a special 24-hour team building project. Your task is to conduct a comprehensive audit of all break room supplies, vending machines, and janitorial closets on floors 15 to 25. This audit must be completed by hand, with detailed inventory sheets for each location. You will begin immediately and work through the night until the task is completed. No delegating, no assistance, no exceptions. This assignment comes directly from executive leadership and is considered a high-priority initiative. Best regards, Van Keller, Director of Strategic Operations. I hit send and leaned back in my chair. Through my office window, I could see Lena at her desk, staring at her computer screen. Her face was pale. The look on their faces when they realized who I was. Priceless. But the night was still young. Chapter 4. The Assignment. Connor showed up at my office door 20 minutes later, red-faced and breathing hard. He'd probably taken the stairs, too angry to wait for the elevator. What the hell is this? He waved a printed copy of my email. It's an assignment, Connor. You do know how to read, right? This is bullshit. I'm not counting toilet paper rolls like some intern. Actually, you are. I pulled up his personnel file and turned my computer screen toward him. See this? Your employment contract. Section 12, subsection 4. Employee agrees to perform any and all duties assigned by executive leadership as deemed necessary for business operations. He squinted at the screen. Executive leadership? You're not executive leadership. Check the company directory. I watched him pull out his phone and navigate to the internal website. His face went through several interesting color changes as he scrolled through the organizational chart. This is impossible, he said finally. You're nobody. You're Lena's loser husband. Was, past tense. And I prefer Director of Strategic Operations. How long have you worked here? Officially since this morning? Unofficially? I shrugged. Let's just say Mr. Roth and I go way back. The door opened and Lena walked in. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, which wasn't far from the truth. In her mind, I'd been dead and buried. Now I was sitting behind an executive desk, giving orders to her boss. Van, she said carefully, we need to talk. I'm a little busy right now. Maybe later. This is insane. You can't just show up here and start ordering people around. Actually, I can. That's what director means. I stood up and walked around the desk. But I understand your confusion. Change is hard. That's why team building exercises are so important. Team building, Connor sputtered. You want us to count supplies all night because you're pissed about last night? Last night? I tilted my head. Oh, you mean when you spit in my face in front of 50 people? No, Connor. This isn't about that at all. Then what's it about? Leadership development. See, I've been reviewing your performance metrics, and I noticed some concerning patterns. Lack of attention to detail, poor resource management, inability to handle basic operational tasks. I picked up a folder from my desk. This assignment will help address those deficiencies. Lena stepped forward. Van, please, can we just what? Pretend last night didn't happen? Pretend you didn't serve me divorce papers this morning? Pretend your boyfriend didn't move his stuff into my house? I sat on the edge of my desk. I'm afraid that ship has sailed, darling. Fine, Connor said, fine. We'll do your stupid assignment. But when this is over, you'll have learned valuable lessons about teamwork and attention to detail. Now, the supply closets are waiting. I'd suggest you start on 15 and work your way up. Those inventory sheets don't fill themselves. They left without another word, Connor muttering under his breath and Lena shooting me looks that could have melted steel. I waited until they were gone, then picked up my phone and called Artie. They took the bait, I said. Both of them? Hook, line, and sinker. How are our friends in facilities management? Ready and waiting. Every supply closet from 15 to 25 has been enhanced for the occasion? Enhanced how? Let's just say they're going to find some very interesting inventory items. Expired cleaning supplies, broken vending machines, a few storage areas that haven't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. Artie, you're an artist. I do my best. Oh, and Van, the security cameras on those floors are all working perfectly. Just in case you want to review their performance later. I hung up and walked to my window. 38 floors below, the city went about its business, completely unaware that two people were about to have the worst night of their professional lives. My computer chimed with a new email. It was from Julia Voss, head of PR and Lena's best friend. The subject line read, "We need to talk." I deleted it without reading it. Then I opened a new document and started typing up tomorrow's assignment. Something involving the parking garage and a very detailed inspection of every single space. In the rain, if I was lucky. HR's idea of conflict resolution is usually a cheese platter and a memo, but sometimes you need a more hands-on approach. Chapter 5. The Night Shift. I stayed late that evening, ostensibly to catch up on paperwork, but really to watch the show. The security monitors in my office gave me a perfect view of floors 15 through 25, and what I saw was better than cable television. Connor and Lena had started on 15 at 6 p.m. with clipboards and measuring tapes, looking like they were heading to their own execution By 7, they were arguing. By 8, Lena was crying. By 9, Connor was screaming at a vending machine that had apparently eaten his dollar. "This is beautiful," Artie said, settling into the chair across from my desk with a cup of coffee. "Floor 19 is my personal favorite." "What's on 19? "Storage closet full of Christmas decorations from 1987. Also, I may have accidentally left a few dead mice in there, for authenticity." I pulled up the camera feed from 19 and watched Lena jump backward as something small and furry fell out of a box of tinsel. Her scream was probably audible 3 floors down. "You're evil," I told Artie. "I prefer thorough." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is harassment. I'm calling a lawyer." I showed it to Artie. "Think that's Connor or Lena?" "Connor. Lena's too smart to put threats in writing." "Good point." I typed back, "Please have your lawyer contact our legal department. They'll be happy to review your employment contract and discuss your options." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. At 10:30, I watched them discover the supply closet on floor 22. This one had been Artie's masterpiece. A tiny room packed floor to ceiling with broken office equipment, expired printer toner, and what appeared to be the remains of someone's lunch from the Bush administration. "How long do you think before they crack?" I asked. "Connor's already cracked. Look at him." On the monitor, Connor was kicking a dead printer, while Lena sat on a box of moldy paper towels, holding her head in her hands. They'd been at this for almost 5 hours, and they still had 3 floors to go. "Maybe we should call it a night," Artie suggested. "They look pretty miserable." "They look perfect." My desk phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then played it back on speaker. "Van, it's me." Lena's voice was hoarse. "Please, this is insane. We've been at this for hours, and these closets they're disgusting. There's mold and dead animals, and I think I saw something moving in one of the boxes. Please, can we talk about this like adults?" I deleted the message and went back to watching the monitors. At midnight, they finally finished floor 25. I watched them drag themselves to the elevator, covered in dust and cobwebs, looking like extras from a zombie movie. The inventory sheets they'd filled out were probably illegible, but that wasn't really the point. The point was that Connor Riley, Senior Vice President of Operations, had just spent 6 hours on his hands and knees in storage closets, taking orders from the man he'd spit on 24 hours earlier. The point was that Lena had just learned what it felt like to be powerless. And the point was that this was only day 1. I was packing up to leave when my computer chimed with another email. This one was from Julia Voss again, but the subject line was different. "I know what you're doing." I opened it. "Van, I don't know how you managed to get yourself hired here, but I know exactly what this is about. You're trying to punish Lena for leaving you, and you're using your new position to do it. This is workplace harassment, and it's illegal. I have friends in the media who would be very interested in this story. The scorned husband who abused his corporate power to torment his ex-wife? That's front-page material. Back off, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Julia." I read it twice, then forwarded it to Artie with a note. "Looks like we have another volunteer for tomorrow's team building exercise." Then I turned off my computer, locked my office, and headed home to my empty house. But for the first time in months, I was smiling. Connor's car was still leaking oil when I left. Small victories, but this was just the warm-up. Chapter 6. The Allies. I was making breakfast the next morning when someone knocked on my front door. Through the peephole, I could see Julia Voss standing on my porch, wearing a power suit and a scowl that could have curdled milk. "Julia," I said, opening the door. "What a pleasant surprise. We need to talk." "Do we? I got your email last night. Very threatening. I was impressed." She pushed past me into the house, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "You can't do this, Van." "Do what?" "Don't play dumb. I know what happened yesterday. Making them count supplies all night? That's harassment. That's management." I closed the door and followed her into the living room. "Coffee? I don't want coffee. I want you to stop this ridiculous revenge fantasy and act like an adult." "Revenge fantasy?" I sat down in my recliner, the one Lena had always hated. Julia, I'm just doing my job. Team building is very important in today's corporate environment. Team building my ass. You're trying to humiliate them. Are they humiliated? I hadn't noticed. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was Lena from last night, sitting on a box in one of the storage closets, covered in dust and looking like she wanted to die. This is what you did to her, Julia said. Your own wife. Ex-wife. She made that very clear yesterday morning. You're pathetic. Am I? Funny, that's exactly what everyone said after Connor spit in my face. But here we are, 24 hours later, and he's the one who spent the night crawling around in storage closets. Julia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression changed. Problem? I asked. I have to get to work. Of course you do. Oh, and Julia? Check your email when you get there. I have a special project that's perfect for someone with your skills. She left without another word, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Good. Worry was the beginning of wisdom. I finished my coffee and drove to the office, taking my time. The morning commute gave me a chance to think about the next phase of my plan. Connor and Lena had survived night one, but barely. Tonight would be worse. And Julia? Julia was about to learn why it was a bad idea to threaten people who had access to expense account records. Artie was waiting in my office with a stack of files and a grin that could have lit up the building. Please tell me you have good news, I said. Better than good. I have great news. He opened the first file. Remember how Julia threatened to go to the media about your harassment of Lena? Hard to forget. Well, it turns out our head of PR has some very interesting expense account activity. Dinners at restaurants that don't exist. Hotel stays in cities she never visited. Gas receipts for a car she doesn't own. I flipped through the receipts. How much? About $15,000 over the past year. Small amounts spread out over time. Very clever, actually. If I wasn't looking for it specifically, I might have missed it. But you were looking for it specifically. I was looking for it specifically. He opened the second file. And then there's this. Photos. Julia having lunch with a man I didn't recognize. Julia in a hotel lobby with the same man. Julia getting into a car with him. Who is he? Marcus Webb, reporter for the Herald, divorced, 2 kids, gambling problem. Artie grinned. Guess who's been paying for his dinners and hotel rooms? Julia's been feeding him inside information for over a year. Company layoffs, merger talks, executive bonuses. Everything that ended up in his business column came from her. I sat back in my chair and stared at the files. This is better than Christmas. It gets better. Webb's been paying her for the information. Cash payments, off the books. Which means she's been stealing from the company and not reporting the income to the IRS. How much trouble is she in? Felony embezzlement, tax evasion, probably looking at 5 to 10 years if it goes to trial. My computer chimed with an email. It was from Julia, sent to the entire executive team. Subject: Concerns about new hire. I feel compelled to raise concerns about the recent hiring of Van Keller as Director of Strategic Operations. Mr. Keller is currently involved in a contentious divorce with one of our employees, and I believe his position is being used to harass and intimidate staff members. I recommend an immediate review of his hiring and his recent actions regarding employee assignments. Julia Voss, Head of Public Relations. I forwarded the email to Artie along with Julia's files. Send these to legal and HR, all of them. With pleasure. And Artie, make sure they understand that Ms. Voss is no longer authorized to speak on behalf of the company. Effective immediately. 20 minutes later, I watched through my office window as 2 security guards escorted Julia out of the building. She was carrying a cardboard box and screaming something about wrongful termination, but the guards weren't listening. My phone rang. It was Lena. Van, what did you do? I did my job. Julia was stealing from the company. That's impossible. $15,000 in fraudulent expense reports. Plus, she was selling inside information to a reporter. HR has all the documentation. Silence. Then, this is because she tried to help me. This is because she committed multiple felonies. The fact that she also threatened me is just a bonus. You're destroying everyone around me. I'm not destroying anyone. I'm just revealing who they really were all along. She hung up without saying goodbye. I leaned back in my chair and looked out at the city. One down, two to go. They wanted proof. I gave them enough to last a lifetime. Chapter 7. The Trap. 2 weeks later, Connor and Lena had completed 7 team-building assignments, each one more degrading than the last. They'd cleaned every bathroom in the building, reorganized the entire mailroom, and spent 3 days in the parking garage documenting every oil stain and cigarette butt. Through it all, they'd maintained a facade of professional compliance. But I could see the cracks forming. Connor had started drinking at lunch. Lena had lost weight and developed a nervous tic in her left eye. Their colleagues were starting to whisper, but they hadn't broken. Not yet. That was about to change. The cameras are in place, Artie said, settling into his usual chair across from my desk. Audio and video, completely undetectable. All of them? Your house, Connor's penthouse, even Lena's new apartment. If they so much as sneeze, we'll have it on tape. I'd moved out of the house the week before, leaving it empty except for the furniture and a very sophisticated surveillance system. Lena had been driving by every few days, probably looking for evidence she could use in the divorce proceedings. Tonight, she was going to find some. The bait is set? I asked. On your desk at home, right where she'll see it when she breaks in. Fake financial documents showing offshore accounts, forged emails about bribing city officials, even a few photos that suggest you've been having an affair. And it's all fake? Every bit of it, but it looks real enough to fool someone who wants to believe it. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Lena and Connor were desperate for leverage, something they could use to force me out of the company or at least stop the assignments. So I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. Evidence of criminal activity that would destroy my career and possibly land me in prison. The only problem was that the evidence was fake, and breaking into my house to steal it was very much a felony. What time do you expect them? Artie asked. Lena has a key, so probably after dark. Connor will want to be there to make sure she finds everything. And then? Then we call the police and let justice take its course. My computer chimed with an email from Connor. The subject line was resignation, which was interesting since I hadn't asked for his resignation. Van, I can't take this anymore. The assignments, the harassment, the constant humiliation. You've made your point. You won. I'm submitting my resignation effective immediately. I'll clean out my office and be gone by.